Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. So, it is that time of the year once again. That time being the time of year where you will be seeing a lot of videos in your feed called the Mid-Year Book Freak Out tag. I'm a little disappointed in myself because last year I managed to post my tag on the exact middle day of the year, which on non-leap years is July 2nd. But this year, just timing wise, that's not when this is going to go up. It's always like kind of a fun like checkpoint of, hey, how are things going? What are you liking? What are you not liking? Just general sort of like state of the booktube for every creator. So without further ado, let me just hop on into these questions. So the first question, and I should tell you, I will have like the links to the originators of this tag and all the questions linked in the description box so you can look there. But the first question is, what is the best book you read in 2019 so far? Which is like, okay, girl, let's just get to getting here. And I'm not at a point yet where I'm ready to say definitively what my single favorite is, but I do have 4 books that as of this filming I have given 5 stars to, so I will just say those 4. The first one being All Systems Red by Martha Wells, which is the first in the Murderbot series of short novels. I am slowly making my way through the entirety of the series. There's another book coming out next year, but this first one is unquestionably the best one, and I'm going to tell you, if I had to pick just one book, maybe this is my favorite of the year so far. I'm not sure. So this is a 5-star. The Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace-Wells is also 5 stars. So those are the 2 I have in physical form. I have No Visible Bruises by Rachel Louise Snyder in audio form, and that is a 5-star read for me as well. That one is about domestic violence, so definitely content warning there. It's a very difficult book to get through, but it is superb. Uninhabitable Earth, I should say, is about sort of like worst case climate change scenarios that will, haunt your nightmares, whatever. 2 very heavy pieces of nonfiction there. And then my 4th 5-star is the Austen Playbook. So the opposite end of the spectrum, very, very light, kind of like textbook perfect, contemporary romance, rom-com-y thing set in the West End London theater scene. So those are the 4 5-stars I've given out so far this year. All of them are in contention for my favorite of the year. I don't have to make that final choice until the end of the year, so I'm not going to make myself do that right now. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read so far this year. So I chose to answer this for episodic series and for serialized series. So for episodic series, I picked once again the Austen Playbook because that is the 4th in a book of loosely connected stories all set in the London theater scene. Like I was saying, the characters from previous books will show up. It's definitely the same world, but it is episodic in the sense of they are not one continual narrative. They're kind of broken up into various stories. So I had that. And then in terms of my favorite serialized sequel, or the best serialized sequel I've read so far this year, I'm definitely going to go with Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. Yeah, this is my favorite of the trilogy, the second book. This is the best book in the series, and also just like hats off to Mark Lawrence because that second book is usually like a tricky one. I think it's really impressive when authors in a trilogy can make the second book so strong because that's often sort of where the most flab is. Definitely not the case in my opinion for this series, and yeah, definitely the best sequel so far this year. Third question is a new release that you want to read but you haven't gotten to yet, and I picked 1 physical book and 1 audiobook because these are really the 2 things that I have left on my TBR that came out in 2019 and that I got as pre-orders. When I pre-order something, I do my best to try to get to them as quickly as I can. So the first is The Lovely and the Lost by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and this is a YA kind of thrillery mystery thing that is about search and rescue, and this came out I believe at the beginning of May, so I'm not like egregiously behind on reading it, but I do really want to get to it, so I would say this for my physical book. And then audio wise, I would say Charged by Emily Bazelon. Emily Bazelon is on one of my favorite podcasts, which is the Slate Political Gabfest, and and I have listened to her for literally like a decade at this point. I really enjoy her as a writer, as a thinker, and this is her latest book. It is about mass incarceration, but really about kind of ways that certain progressive prosecutors are kind of changing their approach to how they prosecute various kinds of crimes, like if they ask for things like bail, etc., to try to kind of ameliorate the mass incarceration crisis that we really have here in the US, and kind of talking about possible solutions for that. So I'm really excited to get to that. I have a road trip in a week, actually in 2 weekends in a row. So I'm hoping maybe that will be my kind of like road tripping book that I can use to pass the time. So those are the two that I'm most looking forward to as of this filming that I haven't yet read. Number 4 is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And that is unquestionably Sapphire Flames by Ilona Andrews. I am so excited because I have an arc for this and I'm going to be reading it in July. It comes out in August. I am so excited. It's the Hidden Legacy series, like Redux continued, and I'm just really, really excited. You guys know Ilona Andrews is my favorite currently writing writer, and this is a series I already know that I absolutely love, so I'm very excited for that. Number 5 is biggest disappointment of the year, and it was hard for me to decide how to answer this, so I decided to go with like the book that gave me the most visceral reaction of like rejection, of like, no, like bad, get away, I hate you. And it is very disappointing because I really want to like this author. I am actually going to be trying again, I think in July. I think me and Leanna are going to buddy read Radiance, but I hated space opera, and I'm very disappointed about that because this is a book and an author that I really wanted to try. So yeah, definitely disappointed that I didn't enjoy this as my like sort of first outing with her. Then the next question is, what was your biggest surprise so far? And I decided again to go with kind of an obvious answer, which was Middle Game by Shauna McGuire, based purely on the fact that I thought that this was a middle grade offering from Shauna McGuire, and this is very, very much an adult fantasy that is quite violent and quite adult. Like, this is in no way middle grade. So that was my big, I just decided to go with, like, in terms of complete, like, oh, that was not what I was expecting. I would say Middle Game. So then next we have favorite new author, which can either be a debut or new to me. And so I decided to answer for both. So in terms of favorite new author, new to me, who published last year at a minimum, I have two answers. First is Martha Wells, just because I've been really enjoying the Murderbot series. Absolutely really enjoying these. I think this first came out in 2017, or either that or 2018. Definitely not like a debut author, but my first encounter with her. I've read 3 books from her so far and really adored this one and then liked all of them. Runner up on those terms would be Rebecca Roanhorse, because I have now read 2 books from her. One came out last year, this one came out this year, and I would say we're 1 book away from her becoming an auto-buy author. I like really am into what she does. So those are the new to me ones. And then in terms of a debut author, I'm gonna go with Jen DeLuca, who wrote Well Met, and this is a book that does not come out until September, but it is a debut that I think is like really, really strong. And kind of what I look for in a debut author, to kind of characterize it that way, is particularly things that have to do with authorial voice and pacing, because I feel like that's a lot of where you kind of see the author's hand most directly. And I think that this has a really lovely authorial voice. It's very light and genre appropriate for the kind of book she's trying to write. And I think that she handled the kind of slow burn romance really well, which can be sort of a tricky plot, I think, for authors to pull off. So I'm going to say that Jen DeLuca is the debut author that has impressed me most so far this year. Number 8 is your new fictional crush. I'm like rarely someone who will really do shipping thing. Sometimes I will, but not often. I was trying to think of like one of the heroes in a romance that I had read this year, or in a book where there was like a heavy romantic element, who I found particularly like impressive or different or whatever. And I decided to go with the dude in The King's Spinster Bride, which is a barbarian romance where the hero is, I think, like 12 years younger than the heroine, which is something you very rarely see in a romance. And it's sort of like a point of contention between them because she's like, she basically just doesn't understand what he sees in her, but they knew each other when he was a child and she was a teen, and basically, like, she saved him from being executed, and he basically was like, cool, we're gonna get married someday from that day forward, and he's like very focused on, so I just liked it as a play on, first of all, like, I'm finding that I love myself a barbarian romance, because like most of the ones that I've ever, actually all the ones I've ever read, I think because they were written recently and not in the 80s, it's always like got very progressive gender politics, so it's always very much like this kind of growly, very alpha guy, but he's very focused on like, I'm gonna make you fall in love with me, just you watch. And that's definitely what this guy is doing. And anyway, so I thought that he was the most like interesting and like the hero I was rooting most for in a romance this year, so that's kind of why I picked him as like fictional crush, even though that's not really a thing that I do with books. Next is favorite character of the year, or favorite new character, and this is gonna mirror my favorite two new to me authors, Maggie in the Sixth World series, just because she thinks she's so broken and she's not. And I just realized exact same reason for Murderbot. Murderbot is unquestionably my favorite new character of the year because Murderbot equals my heart. Murderbot does not think that they are fully human and fully capable of love, but we know different. And I just love watching Murderbot travel the universe and try to like find their humanity or like understand their own personhood. It's just wonderful. So yeah, apparently the way to like, and you know, Kay Daniels is very much this way. The way to my heart apparently is for people who think that they are unlovable and you're in their head and you get to sit there and be like, but you are so lovable. You deserve like good people in your life who like make you feel good. So that's definitely both of these characters, and I fell in love with them this year. Next is a book that made you cry, and that is like so many because it takes nothing for me to cry in a book. I cried in I could bring up Murderbot again, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna pick the book that was like angsting me out and made me cry in a public place, and then the book that just was the most heart-wrenching. So the book that just was so angsty, and it's not even that angsty in the scheme of things, guys. This is why I can't handle super angsty romances, because I have too many feelings and I don't enjoy that, is The Bride Test by Helen Huang. Just like the power dynamics and misunderstandings that happen in this book like really stressed me out. It made me cry on the plane back from London, and I was just like, you guys just need to like learn how to communicate to each other. So this made me cry in public. And then on a very serious note, I would definitely say that No Visible Bruises by Rachel Louise Snyder made me cry throughout, just because it's such a heavy topic. Again, content warning, but it is about domestic abuse, about intimate partner violence, and a lot of what this book is doing is following like real people and real stories and using like those stories as a way to talk about what happens in those kinds of relationships. And it's just like real hard to listen to, but like so good. So that is the book that, in terms of like sheer number of times it made me cry, definitely is clocking in at the highest so far. On the opposite end of things, number 11 is a book that made you happy. And so both of these are like, I picked two that were tied to very like specific memories, because lots of books make me happy. But Well Met, I'm gonna pick that one because that was the book that I read on Father's Day, and I was looking for something that I could just really like be immersed in and kind of forget that it was a very sad day for me, because it was my first one without my dad, who I was very close with. So I needed something just like fully immersive and fully just like happy, like just a book that just would be a light touch. And that was exactly what this one was. It is adults unironically enjoying Ren Fair. It is slow burn romance. It is family dynamics and like found family. It's just like, just to feel, it was like a hug of a book, and it was exactly what I needed. That's coming out in September, and I really recommend it. I'm sure you guys will be hearing me talk more about that. And then the other one that made me really happy, just because when I was reading it, had that active experience of like, this is an experience and like something that I will remember, and that is Sleeping Murder by Agatha Christie, because this is, I think, and I may be wrong, there might be one or there's two other ones left in her canon that I haven't read that I could see having this experience with, but this book was very well possibly the last really good Agatha Christie book that I have not yet read, and just having that first reading experience with my favorite author of a really good book was just special. It was on my week off, and like just getting to really relax and enjoy it was just a very happy book memory. Okay, and then the next one is the most beautiful book that you've bought this year or received, and I decided to pick 3 from 3 very different genres just to give 3 different kind of styles of cover. So first is Storm of Locusts, and if I had to pick one, this would probably be my favorite just because I love this sort of like shiny element to the fire, and also you can't tell, but if you touch it, it has this sort of like gritty feeling to it, which I like, and I just think this is so evocative of what this book is like. I just think that the cover design really matches the content, which I think is true for all of these, but I don't know. I really, really like the cover design on that one. Then in terms of like just general fiction and YA at that, I think With the Fire on High, this is just gorgeous cover design. Again, really represents the book. And then I also do love the naked hardbacks cover. I think that looks really beautiful too. And then finally, just for romance, I am somebody who really likes the more chick litty direction that a lot of sort of like trade paperback romances are going. I want less man-titty and more just like, this is fun and cute and enjoyable in my cover, but not like cheesy. And I think that this does a really nice job of being like, this communicates that this is a really fun book without being cheesy. And I think that that's a really hard kind of needle to thread, and I think several publishers are doing a really nice job with trying to do that right now, and it's a cover trend that I approve of. I know some romance readers really resent that and feel like it's trying to like whitewash or sanitize the fact that these are sexy books, and I hear that. I think for me, I know that people are more likely to pick this up if they're non-romance readers than they would if this had dudes' pecs on the front. And like the clench. And I also feel, for me, I think that those cover designs are too sex first as romance. Like, I think it's simplifying what makes romance of like, oh, these just have smutty scenes. It's like, no, like lots of books have smutty scenes in them, but this is about more than that. So anyway, that was a long side note. I know, all that to say, I know that this trend in cover design is controversial. For this reader, this is the kind of cover that I really like to see in a romance, where it's a little more abstract, but it still communicates sort of the mood. Yeah, I think that this was a job well done. And then the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I think by now you guys have seen my like challenge TBR check-ins, and you will know that there are so many books that I need to or want to read this year. So I could have gone a lot of different directions. I'm gonna stick with the arcs that I have and like the definitive like read-along commitments that I have. So with that in mind, I need to read The Missing of Claire de Lune because I received this as an ARC. I am actually hoping I can get to this in July. Another one that is currently in progress when you guys are seeing this is The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, and I'm currently doing a read along of this, so I have made like a commitment to read it with you guys, so definitely doing that. I need to read, I've actually read all of the Marple books that I need to read except for her last collection of short stories, which is Miss Marple's Final Cases, so that is one. And then in terms of e-arcs, as of this filming, the things that I need to get to are The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang, it's a sequel to The Poppy War, Trick Mirror by Gia Tortellino, I think is that author's name, and that's like an essay collection that I'm excited to get to. How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, and that is a memoir that I'm very excited about that will come out in August, so I have an e-arc of that. Sapphire Flames, which I mentioned earlier, Alona Andrews, most excited to get to that in the back half of the year. Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore comes out in September. I have an e-arc of that. The Widow of Pale Harbor by Hester Fox is sort of like a spooky historical romance / gothic romance thing that I'm excited about. I really enjoyed her book last year, which was The Witch at Willow Hall. So I'm excited for that. That comes out also in September, I believe. And then Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren. That comes out in October. I have an e-arc of it, and I'm definitely excited to read it as well. So those are the ones that I have as of this filming. So those are the things that like I have to get to this year. Everything else is theoretical. And with that, I think that will do it for my mid-year book freakout tag, mid-year reading freakout tag. I always forget exactly the order of operations and the name of this thing, but it's a classic, something we do here every year on BookTube, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So definitely let me know, let's see, of these questions, why don't you guys let me know what book you are most excited about for the rest of the year? Let me know that in the comments or any any response to some of my answers to these questions, feel free to comment on below. And yeah, I think that will do it for this video. So if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all of that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you guys are having a super lovely day, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye.